אתכם ותאכל.
After 40 years in the wilderness, before they went into the promised land, they had to pass through water. Jesus, before he began his ministry, passed through water. There's a symbolic sense of cleansing and claiming the promise when you pass through the water, and these waters obviously are very, very special. One of the things I like to have our group do for the Jordan River is I like to have you remember a promise kept in your life or a miracle in your life. In Joshua chapter 4, when the Israelites finished crossing the Jordan on dry ground, starting in verse 1 at the bottom of page 193, it says, when the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and he said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord of your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of tribes of Israel, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took
They were recognized Christians, so every side. And on the bottom, there are the remains of a church. The two mansions is the Church of the Beatitudes. But this place is in a higher place, more impressive view. And it was bought by the Italians, and this place was built in the 30s. And there was a big dispute here. You don't shoot armies, you don't attack armies, you attack camps, you attack this, you attack this. Not big wars, but each one is very symbolic.
Chop from this calcium stone, most of the stone.
limestone.
Limestone, okay, limestone. It's made of Ca, calcium. If you study chemistry, it's calcium, Ca it's written, this is the name. Now calcium together with chlor, it can create a salt. Now when it's dissolving, it's creating like something round like this that's inside the mountain. This when you see karstic, when you see stalagmite.
There's all the trees. He pointed this out in Hosea chapter 4 last time. We were here. Hosea was a prophet to the northern kingdom of Israel, speaking out against Israel. And look what he said. Let's just start in verse 12. Hosea talking about the people of Israel, page 808. My people consult a wooden idol, and the diviner's rod speaks to them. A spirit of prostitution leads them astray. They're unfaithful to their God. They sacrifice on the mountaintops and burn offerings on the hills under oak, poplar, and terebinth, where the shade is pleasant. Therefore your daughters turn to prostitution and your daughters-in-law to adultery. He pointed out that while we were here last time that one of these trees is okay. So let me explain it. Syria today is on the other side of those mountains. That radar station on the top, that radar station kind of halfway down. Syria in 1967 was across that road. That was Syria. That tank straight out there, that rusted out tank, was Syrian in 1967. That village on the top of that hill over there, that is Lebanon.
Somewhere
on the top of the hill.
With bombing, you
we could see like in the distance.
because what you saw with Ari, because it was the civil war going in Syria,
Yes.
you were at the top of the Golan. Yeah, the Golan up there, in a high point. You were facing,
Yeah.
watching.
Somewhere and we could
Yes,
see
you
off in the
saw the
distance.
border with,
Yeah.
and you saw.
could hear it. Boom.
Yes, they were fighting there, but they didn't
Hey,
interfere
Ellie,
with
so on the hillside, is all of that hillside Israel?
Left side Israel,
Left
right
side?
side
Where
is
the
Lebanon.
border is.
The village you see,
Is that wall a border right
no, it's a road.
Okay, that's a road.
The village you see
Yes.
is Lebanon. The village on the top of the hill, it's
That's-
hard to see it,
Yeah.
it's Israel.
Okay. So the village on the white and red tower is Israel?
That's Lebanon.
Or
No,
that's
this is Lebanon. That's definitely
Just this
Lebanon.
one where you can barely see to the very left.
That's Lebanon for sure.
And that's Lebanon, and then this one up here on the top
Yeah.
of this hill that's kind of in
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah.
So this is called, because it stretches up into Lebanon, the finger of Israel. And our last guide said you can imagine which finger Israel would like that to be. There was a starting line of his final trip to Jerusalem. To die on the cross. He was here. He was here. This is where he took his last deep breath and said, "All right, it's time to go." Wow. I love the discussion. We'll start in verse 13, more than halfway down the right-hand column on 880. Matthew 16:13, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi. Here we are. He asked his disciples. Open your Bibles, have a pen or notebook. I don't want you to do anything out at this point. Matthew 5, 6, and 7 was probably given over several days. The Sermon on the Mount was a compilation of messages that were probably given over a week or so that Matthew combined into what I would call the scope and sequence, the curriculum, if you're an educator, of a follower of Jesus. This is what a follower of Jesus believes. This is how they act. This is how they pray. This is what they look like on the outside. This is who they are on the inside. And here are the signs of their life. Several years ago, before I made my first trip to Israel, my men's accountability group decided to memorize the Sermon on the Mount together. And then on my first trip to Israel, one of the guys who had memorized that with me came on the trip with me, and I said, "Hey, would you? Do you think you could quote the Sermon on the Mount of Beatitudes from memory, so that instead of reading the Bible, we could all just sit back and listen and look and reflect on the words of Jesus while seeing what Jesus was doing?" Well over 100 verses. He said, "Yeah, I can do that." And we've not been here since that somebody hasn't quoted the Sermon on the Mount. Most often, this young lady standing to my right. And I wasn't planning to have her do this, but when she talked to me last night, she just said, "Hey, I don't know if you're going to basically call on me without telling me." I've known to do that. But she said, "I'm ready if you need me." And I said, "Man, I would love for you to quote the Sermon on the Mount to our people so that they could just take in the message of Jesus on the mountain where Jesus taught." You'll be able to see when you take pictures in a little bit. Capernaum's just down the hill.
Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. For I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. But truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, whoever sets aside one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Truly I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, "Do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Again, whoever says to his brother, 'Raka,' is answerable to the Sanhedrin, but anyone who says 'You fool' will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You've heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who even looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. For it is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. It has been said that whoever divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for marital unfaithfulness, causes her to become an adulteress. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but keep the oaths you have made to the Lord. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your own head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. Simply let your yes be yes, and your no, no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, or a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. It has been said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. And if you love only those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. For if you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be done in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, and close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your heavenly Father will not forgive your sins. And when you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others that they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If the eyes are healthy, then the whole body is full of light, but if the eyes are unhealthy, then your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. For is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? How could any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin, and yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed as one of these. If this is how God clothes the grass of the field that is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans chase after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Do not judge, or you will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give to dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, you give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, do you give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything you do, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many will enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Watch out for false prophets. For outwardly they wear sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. In the same way, do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will come to me on that day, saying, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? And I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Therefore, whoever hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rains came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house.
And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone. And I will not be shaken. I will build. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone. And I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you. There is
Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome. Come, Holy Spirit.
העולם ישמח, העולם ישמח, ותעצמו באור, וחושך לא יחדור, ולמשמע קולו ימוג מפני האור. Sing it out, גדול אדוני, גדול beginning and the end, my God, with three one. Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. Sing it out, Gadol Adonai, people. Gadol Adonai. Sing it out. All the sea adore.
From the leg of Zeus, and Zeus was one of the 12 kids, gods, but he was the highest, right? And his wife Hera was also his sister, and she was a terrible, jealous woman. But because she could do nothing to him,
Are you just talking normal?
Adam, I want to make sure I'm not stand where you are. Jerusalem. Psalms of ascents will mean new things to you now. They were probably breathing hard while they were singing those psalms on their final steps. There you see directly in front of us where we'll be heading on the Mount of Olives.
Видишь, у меня здесь залезла. Так нормально?
please get pictures if you have questions of yourself or Ellie. And please don't hesitate to ask. And we look forward to showing you the city real.
Maybe that's what it is.
Huh?
Maybe that's what it is.
Look at that down there.
Yeah, look down there.
Kidron Valley.
Okay. Look at this. Wow. This is an old
Yeah, I'm from Toronto, Canada. I understand that you all are from Kansas City, as in Dorothy.
Yes.
Still alive?
Yes.
So, what else?
The Temple Steps. Acts chapter 2. Mount of Olives. Garden of Gethsemane. Jerusalem. Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I'm tired.
It's a good example about what Israelis are doing here. You settle down here, everybody is going to tell you then, before we have these good roads, are you crazy? In the middle of the desert, near the Dead Sea?
Down to the next camp. When I see this, I think about Hezekiah, right? Because we just read about Hezekiah. The Assyrians had come. You remember what time did we buy?
3:15.
Guys, come up to take the picture. That is commemorating, of course,
Peter.
very close to the Peter would have denied Jesus 3 times. I've never seen
Co?
Yep, I am.
You look on that side, I'll look on this side.
Okay.
There's a lot of the places where Christians were worshiping, and the Christians were worshiping in the 2nd century. They said, let's tear them down and build Roman temples on top of them. It's gone into the church, and it's overwhelming. Those of you who aren't Catholic or
I'm down, I can't get up.
The disciples, it must have been their world upside down. But God had a greater plan, and that is that Joseph of Arimathea would provide unexpectedly because he was a Pharisee, he was a member of the Jewish assembly or the Sanhedrin, and he was a secret disciple, and until he walked out from the crowd and said that to Pilate, nobody knew that he was a follower of Jesus. Unexpected to the abuse of the crowd, Jesus would be buried. So we're considering his death, his burial, and his resurrection. When I point you towards this drawing here, you're going to see what it was like 100 years ago. With the two eyes here, can you see it from where you are? Yeah, sure. The two eyes here, the nose and the mouth. Today, that is all you can see, and I'm not even sure if you can see the last remnants of the nose, okay? When you take a photograph, and I'll get you to do that in a minute, turn your camera sideways, okay? Or landscape, you would say. Turn it sideways, and you will discover, yes, that eye there is pretty much in the shadow, but the other one will come into shadow too because of the way a camera works as distinct from our eye. So you will go away with that, even though you see that, and that one there is pretty much too much sin in it. So you will have a better picture than what you actually see with your eye. Two things before you take a photograph. Remember the words from the